Have you ever wondered how elite athletes achieve their goals? It's not just about physical training. It's about the power of intention and mental rehearsal. In this episode, I'll be sharing my personal experiences from the Australian Outrigging National Championships and how setting clear intentions and visualizing success helped me win multiple medals. So whether you're an athlete, a professional, or someone looking to make a significant change in your life, these strategies can work for you too. Stay tuned to discover how you can harness the power of intention and transform your life. Let's dive in. If there was a guarantee that you could create your dream life, a life that truly mattered to you, would you want it? My name is Terriane Palmer-Peacock, and I'm delighted to welcome you to the One Person Podcast. I have a belief that one person can make a difference in the world. That person is you. It's me. When we show up as the best version of ourselves, when we create and live our dream lives, we make a positive impact on ourselves and those around us. So if simple, actionable, step-by-step strategies, tools and tips on how to do that inspires you, then you are in the right place, my friend. So let's get started. So last weekend was the Australian Outrigging National Championships held up at Mooloolaba on the Sunshine Coast up here in Queensland. It's something I've been training for over the past 9 months, and for those of you who don't know what the sport is, just think of Hawaii or in fact any of the Polynesian islands where there's a canoe with an outrigger out to the side and people paddle in it. Now culturally, it's how the islanders would fish and hunt for food or travel to explore new islands. And so there's a lot of history and culture associated with the sport, and it's something that I connect to at quite a deep level with my Māori heritage. Nowadays, it's considered an extreme sport because of the distances we paddle and the conditions we train and race in. And to be honest, this weekend was no different. Now, what has this got to do with you? Well, it's the power of intention. Now, if you followed me on my Facebook page, you would have seen I did a reel a couple of days ago, in fact, the beginning of the week, where I shared the power of intention and the magic of mental rehearsal. Now, this is life-changing information, but what I want you to pay attention to is, actually, in fact, I'm going to go down a side rabbit hole here. The key when you listen to this podcast is not to listen for the sake of accumulating more content or knowledge. If you want real change in your life, you have to take the knowledge or content I share and act on it. You have to put the things we discuss in this podcast into action, because that's how you're going to facilitate change and create a life that you love. Now, content on its own is useless. Knowledge on its own is useless. Think about it. How many people have bookshelves with loads of knowledge or content that simply collects dust? Or how many people download audiobooks and never listen to them? Or they might listen to them for pure entertainment only. Now, there's nothing wrong with entertainment, of course, but if you want real long-lasting change, if you want to change your current reality, then when you listen to this podcast, you're going to have to take action. And by the way, there's never any wrong action. There's only ever feedback from the action you take. You see, you either reach the goal or you don't. And if you don't, it's normally because you didn't have all the information or skill sets or resources. So once you figure out what you're missing and what you need, then the next step is to take some more action. And if you still don't reach the goal, then check what more information do you need? What skill sets do you need to upgrade? What new resources do you need to add in? That's it. Act again. Go again. That's the strategy. And it really is that simple. Right, so let's go back to the story I was telling you about the Outrigging National Championships. And I want to start with expectation. So what is expectation? Now, any word that ends with ATION means the experience of. So for example, transformation. Trans means go beyond. Form means what you have right now. So transformation means to go beyond the experience of what you have right now. Imagination is the experience of what we constantly image. So expectation is the experience of what we expect. Now, first and foremost, set an expectation to win at the game of life. Set an expectation to achieve the outcomes you set for yourself. Now, if you haven't listened to episode 4 yet, go ahead and listen to that, because you'll need to be clear on your answers from that episode in order to be able to set an expectation to receive the things that you truly desire. Now, most people wish for really big things, but they expect very little, and therefore that's what they get, very little. So you have to remember to always raise your expectations. Now, I have an expectation when it comes to my sports that I achieve my goals. Whatever I set out to do, I nail it. And this national campaign was no different for me. This strategy that I'm about to share with you is one that I use in my sporting career, and I can tell you now, it works every time without fail. It's so powerful. So it's what I'm going to share with you today. And here's what's really great about it. It's cross-contextual, which means it's not just limited to sports. It can be used by anyone in any area of your life to get the same results that I got, which is winning at this game of life. So, step 1, set an intention for what you want. Now, by the way, I'm assuming you've already set an expectation to win at achieving your goals. That's a given. We are raising our expectations, are we not? Now, the next step is to be intentional. Now, for me, my first race on the weekend was a 10-kilometre OC1 race, or a one-man single craft race. Now, this season I haven't really raced at any regattas on my one-man, so I didn't really have an idea on how I was placed or ranked against my competition. But I had a strong intention to get on the podium. In fact, the closer we got to the weekend, the more I decided, I made a decision that I wanted gold. I wanted to win the Senior Master Woman category for 10 kilometres on my OC1. That was my intention, and I pictured myself standing on the podium with a gold medal around my neck. So the next step was mental rehearsal. Now, this is something I learned years ago in my speed skiing days from the mindset coach that I had at the time. Now, you have to picture in your mind a video of the perfect race scenario. So you create a movie in your mind of everything leading up to the race. So in other words, the perfect preparation, the start of the race. So for me, that was getting a clean start off the beach, feeling strong and leading the way. And sometimes things are created that I simply make up. I mentally rehearsed the race lying in bed the night before and just as I was waking up in the morning. Then I get up and I get on with my day. So for me, we woke up on Friday morning. We drove up to Gold Coast, from the Gold Coast up to Mooloolaba. It's about a 3-hour drive at that time in the morning. I registered for the race, collected my safety tracker while Doug unloaded the canoe. I got everything set up and waited for my race briefing. And once that was done, I was ready to go. So far, so good. For this race, there was 107 paddlers in total. So they split the field into 3 different waves with 5 minutes in between. Now, I was in the second wave that started 5 minutes before the first wave. It was all senior masters, men and women. So at the start line, Doug's holding my canoe. I'm on my canoe. The white flag went up, 2 minutes to go. The red flag went up, 30 seconds or sooner. And in a split instant, the green flag was raised and we were off. Now, I had a great start, just as I had imagined, and had pretty clear water in front of me. And here's what's really cool. When I was creating the movie in my mind, Spirit or my guides kept telling me, top 5, go for top 5. Now, I wasn't sure what they meant when they said top 5. Was it get in the top 5 women to cross the finish line? Was it top 5 in my age category? So I ruled the last one out because I had a strong intention to win my category. So I didn't want to be in top 5. I wanted first in my category. So I thought, well, maybe it's top 5 women across the line. Now, about 2 kilometres into the race, I realised I was top 5 OC1s. There were 2 men on OC1s about 80 metres in front of me, another man to the right about 50 metres ahead of me, and a man on an OC1 right beside me on my left. And I suddenly realised I was the only woman in this group of OC1s. The top 5 from our wave was 4 men and me. Now, I do feel for the man on my left because he was a fraction stronger than me and he'd pull about 10 metres ahead of me, but I was better at picking up the bumps and runners, so I'd catch a bump and runner and I'd surge ahead of him. Then he'd grind up to me, then I'd catch some more bumps and surge ahead. And eventually, I think he got annoyed with playing cat and mouse with me, so he dropped behind my canoe, went behind me, and then headed further out to sea. He was probably trying to catch those elusive bumps that I was catching, only to huli, which is to flip upside down. And so he was in the water, so then I was top 4. And then in the next 3 minutes, another one of those top 5 paddlers hulied in front of me, so then I was top 3 in my wave. Now, I ended up passing lots of paddlers from the first wave, so not only did I end up winning gold in my age category, so in other words, I became national champion for Senior Master Woman 2024 in OC1 10K, but I was also second female across the line, only 5 seconds behind a young 19-year-old from the Open Division. So for me, I get to say this to you: expect to win the game. Set a clear intention for what you want to achieve. Mentally rehearse the ideal outcome coming to fruition. Then, as Nike says, just do it. Now, my second race was the one that was a really special race for me. It was the 18K Women's Open race. It was a team race with 6 of us in a canoe. And it's one where our team has worked really hard over the past couple months. We've put in the extra hours of training. We've got up at 4:30 in the morning to train together. And it's something, that I've been really proud of in terms of how we really bonded as a crew. Now, I did know my competition for this race and I had data from last year. So my intention for this particular race was first and foremost to have a great race and for everyone in the crew to give their absolute best. My second intention was to be standing on the podium at the end. In fact, I'd been visualizing that outcome for a couple of weeks, the whole crew standing up on the podium. So if I was to summarize that, the full intention was to have a great race, to have the team races won, and to end up on the podium at the end. And we did exactly that. In fact, we came across the line 6th overall, which was up from 13th last year, and ended up winning a bronze medal in the Masters category. Now, 5 of our ladies in that crew are senior master paddlers, so we're all paddling down in age category. And to be honest, had we entered senior masters, we would have achieved a silver medal. Now, for me, the medal colour doesn't actually matter because we were all absolutely stoked with our placing across the line and how we raced as a crew. So that's medal number 2. Now, it's the next race that really brings this strategy, the power of intention and expecting to get what you ask for, that really brings this home. So it's now Sunday morning. It's day 3 of the competition. And today is the 18-kilometre long course mixed team race. Now, the weekend before Nationals, we chatted as a team about where we wanted to place. Now, some said gold, some said podium. Now, for some reason, I couldn't hold the vibration of gold in my mind. So I visualised silver or something better. Now, Doug, who's my husband, was also in our team, but the night before, he looked exhausted. He wasn't his full of energy, cheeky self like he normally is. But to be honest, I didn't pay much attention to him because I was focusing on what I needed to do for me to race well. Plus, I knew that I was backing up after a race to do another 10K short case race as the steerer. So I already knew it was going to be a really big day for me, and I already had lots going on in my head. Now, that morning, I did my intentions, I did my visualization to achieve silver or better, and I mentally rehearsed standing on the podium with a silver medal or better around my neck. So, fast forward, I'm in seat 1 in the canoe at the start line. White flag up, red flag up, green flag up, and go! We're off! We get a clean start and we seem to be pulling ahead of the other canoes. In fact, all I see at seat 1 is clear water ahead of me. So I'm paddling hard going, yep, we've got this. And then all of a sudden, I'm thrown to the right and our canoe does a sharp turn left. We got tail tapped by a canoe behind us, which spun us off to the left. Now we have nowhere to go except straight into the gunnel of a canoe beside us. Another boat's coming from behind. They do their best not to paddle straight over top of us and instead run straight into our brand new armour. So they stop paddling. We stop paddling. We back paddle. They back paddle. We turn the canoe and finally get going again. Now we're at the back of the race. and it's a pure grind forward. So by the second buoy, about 3 kilometres into the race, we've passed several crews and we're now looking at about top 12. And I look over to my left and I see our Open Club team about 100 metres in front of me. And to my right is our biggest competition, Brisbane Outriggers. Now the ex-wife of one of my team members is in that crew, so I know that's the target that he wants to beat. I put my head down and we slowly start closing the gap. Then about 5 kilometres in, something happens. We lose power in the boat and we lose all our boat run. In fact, the boat feels really heavy. And when we turn the buoy at the 6-7k mark, something feels really wrong. In fact, we're losing the ground we made up, and I notice the other boats are starting to pull away from us. Now, we're normally a really good surfing crew, but we can't seem to catch anything today, and it feels really heavy at the front. In fact, I'm struggling. It is really hard paddling. At about 9k's in, I hear Doug grunt. Now, he's normally really vocal in the surf, and today he is dead quiet. So I yell back to check on Doug. Mel, who's sitting behind me in seat 2, she yells, "Hey, we need to look after our teamie." But by the time we're about 10 to 11k's into the race, and I've tried everything up the front to get boat run, we've now been passed by 2 crews. So I say to my seat 2, Mel, "Bugger this, let's just enjoy our paddle and stuff the race." So that's what we did. Now by the time we get to the shore, no one is happy in the canoe. But do you know what? I'm now focused on my next paddle for the weekend. It's the last one for the weekend, which is a women's 10k short course team. So I'm out of the boat as fast as I can, trying to refill my water pack and get some glucose into me. And then I notice Doug can barely walk. In fact, he is grey in colour and his lips are turning white. So I forget about everything I'm doing to prepare and start looking after him. Thankfully, there's paramedics and they're in the tent next to us and they come and check on him. And after a glucose test and blood pressure test, they put it down to pure exhaustion and give him the all clear. Now, I know he's in good hands, so I grab my gear, jump into the canoe and head off to the start line for the last race of the day. Now, something to keep in mind is I'm a relatively new steerer, so I've been paddling for years, but only really picked up a steering blade last year. So my intention for this race was to show up as the best version of myself and give the team everything I have. Give them 110% and leave nothing in the tank. It's also to keep everyone safe because that's my number one responsibility as the steerer of the crew or captain of the crew. And that's exactly what happened during the race. And the cherry on the top, we won gold in the Masters category, finishing or crossing the finish line 5th overall. So that was my second gold for the weekend, Australian champions for Master Woman, Master Woman in the 10k short course. So, and remember that awful mixed race where Doug wasn't feeling well and we'd resigned ourselves to just enjoy the paddle and give up on the racing? The one I set the intention for in the morning for silver or better? Well, the results came in as we came across the finish line. We achieved silver in the senior master mixed age category, exactly as I had intended. So 4 races I competed in at the National Championships and I came home with 4 medals, 2 gold, 1 silver and a bronze. So what was my strategy? Set a clear intention. Know what my outcome was. Expect to achieve my outcomes. Mentally rehearse the races in my mind. Now, anyone can do this strategy, including you. Does it take practice? Yes. Do you need all the steps for it to work? To be honest, I don't know. This is the strategy that works for me every time I do it. So why would I mess with it? I know it works. And do you know what else? It takes less than 2 minutes to do the entire strategy from start to finish the night before and the morning of whatever it is that you're doing. That's it. So life doesn't have to be hard, except for how hard we make it. So I hope you loved this episode. I hope you found it valuable. Thanks again for hanging out with me. And if you'd be so kind to share this episode with someone you know who would find it as valuable as well, I would love that. Next week, I have something special coming up, so make sure you stay tuned for that. I'm Terriane Palmer, and this is the One Person Podcast. We are almost halfway through the year. Can you believe it's already June? I've got some pretty exciting things to share with you this month, particularly to help you ensure your second half of 2024 is even better than the first. In fact, my Nationals campaign was just another great convincer and proof that the strategies and formula I use to create results works. Now, one of the things I have coming up is a free mini training that I'd love to invite you to. Right now, you can jump on the VIP waitlist by heading to terrianepalmer.biz/FF. Now, I'll include the link in the show notes as well. There will be some special bonuses for anyone who signs up to the VIP list, so check out those show notes and click the link. You can also find the link on my website, terrianepalmer.biz.